Alright, what is up, my Lotso hugging bears? Slop here back in the finals, and you already know what's going on, bro. So if somehow you missed it, just yesterday, actually, we went over the #1 greatest, best build loadouts for medium class in the finals, and the Yapathon must continue. Today, we will be doing the exact same thing, but with the heavy build. Quick disclaimer, when I say that these are the best builds, I'm not saying that you can't or that you shouldn't run something else, simply that throughout the thousands of matches that I have played, these are the combinations that I have found to be the most effective, versatile, and useful, regardless of whatever map it is, whatever modifier it is, or whatever skill level you're going against. This is just what I think's the GOAT. But yeah, without further ado, let's run that hoe. Alright, starting off with the weapons, I do believe that the brand new 50k Akimbo Deagles, the Lewis gun, the M60, and the Sledgehammer are all just goated, top tier, solid, super viable options. Both the flamethrower and the SA-1216 shotgun they're all right, and you could definitely be solid with them, but I will point out that they are definitely a noticeable step down just in overall goodness compared to those other 4 weapons. And then for the nade launcher, the KS-23 and the spear, I will say, honestly, just don't run those unless you're like running power shift or you just don't really care about winning and you'd rather have fun. But spear is just a worse sledgehammer, KS-23 is just bad, and MGL-32 is just awful, just horrible, terrible. And again, you could make any weapon seem super busted and work really well, but you're gonna have to work so much harder with something like the spear as opposed to like the M60. As far as specializations go, I will say I do believe all 4 of these are pretty solid choices and they're all viable enough, but I will point out that while Mesh Shield was definitely leagues above the other 3 for the first 3 seasons of the game, it got a pretty substantial nerf with the launch of Season 4. And while I would consider Charge and Slam, Winch Claw, and Goo Gun to be like A tier solid choices, Mesh Shield I'm gonna put like probably low B tier. It's still like usable and it's not like remarkably worse, but I will say it's definitely feels like a tier below in my opinion. That being said, if you do want to run the Sledgehammer, I would definitely recommend probably Winch Claw, or you can make Charge and Slam work pretty well, but I would say that's the only weapon where you're really, really limited on your specialization. I don't think that Sledgehammer and Goo Gun is a good choice at all, and I don't think that it pairs well with Mesh Shield, but I could be wrong. For Gadget Slot 1, I will say this is probably going to be a pretty mandatory choice. RPG was definitely S tier, probably top 2 gadgets in the game for the first 3 seasons. It got a super fat nerf on the launch of Season 4, just like the Mesh Shield, but unlike the Mesh Shield, it's still pretty freaking busted. Definitely a lot worse than it was, and you will feel a massive difference between what it was and now, but even still, it's still just like, it's still probably one of the best gadgets in the game, and I feel like you kind of need it on heavy low-key. In terms of usefulness, it's extremely hard to compete with the RPG. It is perfect for opening fights. It does a pretty wide AoE splash damage, and it does a pretty fat chunk. It does like half a light. I think it's like 70 or 80 damage on like a direct hit, and if you can get like a nice shot on a clump of 3, that's like a mag worth of damage that you just instantly unloaded on them before they even knew you were there. And on top of that, you can also use it to like drop cash outs from the like floating station or the suspended structures or whatever it's called. You can use it to like open lines of sight from far away. Like, it's the only gadget where I will say it is probably mandatory, but not necessarily, but use it. Just use it. For Gadget Slot 2, I will definitely try to recommend steering you towards Dome Shield, but Barricade's also an extremely solid choice. It's beyond clutch for just like throwing it down at the beginning of a fight to suck up damage that your teammates would have taken. It's super clutch for pushing vault rooms. It's super clutch for throwing one on the cash out vault as you're trying to like steal it last second. I mean, again, same situation as RPG where you could make something else work, but I'm not gonna lie, you're just gonna be trying as hard as you can to make that gadget seem as useful as this one, because it can't really be beat. And then the third slot's gonna be a lot more of a dealer's choice. I have been running C4 a lot since it got buffed with Season 4, and I've been liking it a lot. It's really clutch to open walls, put one on a barrel, chuck it, blow it up. What I've been using it a lot for is you'll bank 2 on the cash out station, then when they try to steal, you just ignite it. It drops to the floor, and a lot of the time it kills the person trying to steal. It's just super busted. Apart from C4, though, I mean, Barricade, you can't really go wrong with. It's almost as good as Dome Shield, but I probably wouldn't recommend Dome Shield and Barricade in the same loadout, but I've seen people make it seem busted before, so it's possible. Flashbang, no. Not Flashbang. Frag Grenade is super solid, and all around, just you can't really go wrong with it, but I will say, especially if you're running RPG, not really a reason to throw Fragging on top of that, and I would argue just run the C4, because in my opinion, C4 is just a better, more versatile frag that opens up a lot more like windows of opportunity than the frag does, because you can do everything a frag does and also like control when it explodes, so you can pull off some crazy clutch plays basically. Gas grenade, super solid choice. This is a great third slot contender, super clutch for throwing one on the cash out at the last like 20 seconds to make it so it's inaccessible to opponents, so they can't like try and steal it last second. It's just it renders it obsolete, basically. It also has a super wide damage cloud, and it does a decent amount of damage the longer they sit in it. So, I mean, all around, it's just a solid option. Goo Grenade is really good and really slept on, but I would not recommend it with the heavy build, especially if you're running Dome Shield. And I would say if you want like another barrier type gadget, then just run Barricade over Goo Grenade. It's just kind of like a way better Goo Grenade. Barricade is it's a little bit more limited in that you can't do like the cool crazy parkour strats or like bridge building strats and stuff like that like you can with the Goo, but run Goo Gun, bro. That it makes it so much better. Which there's zero reason to ever run Goo Grenade on heavy. Just run the Goo Gun specialization and then a Dome Shield or a Barricade, and you basically just pack a punch to your Goo Grenade. Pyro, same situation as Gas, where it's solid, super versatile. There's a lot of different things you can do with it, and you can't really go wrong with it. But me personally, I'm more of a Gas fan, but it's really just kind of a preference thing. Explosive Mine used to be my third gadget slot, like go-to solid pick, but they reduced the charges down to 1 with the launch of Season 4, which has made it quite a bit less versatile. I will say it's still super solid and a great choice for the third gadget slot, but it used to be like what I would consider the mandatory third gadget slot, whereas now it's just like, oh yeah, it's a good enough choice, but I've been preferring the C4 because the C4 is just an explosive mine that you control. So like Pyro Mine, I won't cap. I think I have been sleeping on this for a while. I just tried it out recently for the first time in like months practically, and it's a lot better than I remember it. I will say I think gas mines are a little bit more versatile in terms of like you can throw some on the cash out station and then like either hope somebody trips them when they're trying to steal, or you can just manually shoot one out and then it's a gas grenade basically, except for you can bank them and you can have 2 charges of it. But where the Pyro, it's much less used for that like rendering the cash out station inaccessible, because while it does like have an AoE and it does stay there, it doesn't really work in the same regard. Same with the Pyronade. It doesn't really work as well as gas, to where most of the time, even when the fire like ignites, it's not gonna like have a wide enough range to make it so it's impossible to get the cash out. It might like make it hard to get from one angle, but you can just walk around because the fire just doesn't spread enough. That being said, though, the Pyro Mine does do like 90 damage when it explodes, and then it also sets them on fire and ticks some more. So if you're just using mines for damage and you're not trying to do like gas strats or like close off like choke points and stuff like that, then Pyro Mine's honestly a really solid choice. Proximity sensor, I think it has some serious use, but definitely not one I would recommend to people, especially new or lesser skilled players. I don't think I'm even like skilled enough or high IQ enough to like really utilize this enough to make it worth choosing. I think it does have serious potential, but I think you need literally thousands of hours in this game before you start like cooking up strategies to make this worth the third slot. Anti-grav cube, honestly, I'm going to say the same thing as the proximity sensor, except for low-key it might be even like a bit less viable. It's super fun and probably one of the coolest gadgets in the game. I love to just like mess around with it and goo cash out boxes to the ceiling and stuff, but I'm not going to lie, there's been almost 0 fights or situations ever where I would say that this like changed the course of the outcome of like what would have happened. It's fun, but is it helpful or useful? No, like it's just not. All right, so as far as a couple of like actual combinations go, this is quite literally just what I've been running all of season 4 on my heavy build in ranked. Goo Gun, 50 Akimbo Deagles, RPG, Dome Shield, and C4. Like, it cooks, bro. It cooks. Bank 2 C4s on the cash out, goo off every entrance point, make it impossible to breach the room, and then you just wait. If somebody does manage to get in, blow them up, RPG them, they're gone. I mean, it cooks, bro. This is what I would consider a prime sledgehammer build. Winch Claws just, it's literally built for a sledgehammer. You just scorpion, pull them in, and then freaking boom, just it's goated, bro. I will say RPG is probably the most mandatory gadget to pair with sledgehammer, just because you don't have like the range or mobility to close gaps with people. So there's a lot of times where you're gonna need to finish them with an RPG, or they're gonna get away because there's no way for you to get to them. But Winch Claw also helps with that. You can just get over here. Blah. While I wouldn't recommend Dome with Barricade most of the time, I do think it pairs quite well with the sledgehammer, just because you need a lot of cover. You can't like fight people, and you can't close gaps because you're a heavy. So Barricade, and if you're only going to choose one, I would say probably go with Barricade over the Dome Shield with heavy, with sledgehammer. But I don't know. And finally, if you are what you would consider to be a newer or like less experienced player, then this I think is a perfect loadout. Mesh Shield, while it is not quite what it once used to be, it is still extremely helpful to just pull out a giant-ass shield mid-fight and either protect yourself, save yourself from getting finished off, or just protect your teammates as they're about to get finished off, and then allow for them to finish off the guy that was finishing them off. Of the 4 specializations, it is most definitely the most, like, new player friendly and easiest to, like, kind of wrap your head around and use effectively. Same situation with the M60, honestly. If you are a newer or, like, not super experienced player, M60 is... it's going to be your go-to, bro. Especially after they added this red dot sight. It's just like probably the best weapon in the game for new players. It's just like what the F-car used to be. It's pretty accurate. It's got pretty manageable recoil. The sight is super nice and easy to aim now. The iron sights are pretty rough, I will say. And then the magazine's freaking insane. 70 bullets, bruh. Super forgiving weapon all around, and I'm not gonna lie, while I wasn't a big fan of this for most of the game's life, ever since they made the Season 4 changes, which was reducing the recoil, adding the sight, and I believe they gave it like 1 or 2 more points of damage, I've been having a blast with it. It's definitely one of the cooler guns in the game. It reminds me heavily of like Season 1 Lewis gun vibes, which if you were there for, but it was a fun time. Also, I think Explosive Mine, or any mine, frankly, is a great choice for a build like this, because it's not something you need to like think about or be super cognizant of or worry about like mid-fight, which is not something you want a lesser experienced player to do. Explosive Mine, you just chuck it in like a doorway, chuck it near the cash vault, and then that's it. You're done. But yeah, bruh, I believe that is all I wanted to say in regards to the most optimal, best, greatest, number 1, top, best, awesomest heavy build. I would love to hear your thoughts, though. Are you like, Slop, that's literally my build? Or are you like, Slop, I only run Spear with Flashbang and some other dumb shit. I don't remember. But, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that is going to be all she wrote for today. But we will be right back on that grind tomorrow. So if you'd like to follow along, make sure to like and subscribe, or you're a stupid, dumb, weenie, idiot face, loser, dummy, weenie, stupid, idiot, dumb. We will be shaving the dome ball at 1K subs, so tap in, or you're a dumb, stupid, weenie, idiot, dumb. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow. Slop out.
Sticking out your yacht for the Rizzler. You're so skibbity. You're so Phantom Tax. I just wanna be your Sigma.